Hey, Boss Economics World fam. It's your boy, the Econtrarian with the slickest takes on the economic apocalypse du jour, here to break down the latest government-induced clown show. Buckle up, because today we're diving into a steaming pile of trade chaos that's got global supply chains more tangled than your grandma's knitting basket. And guess what? It's all courtesy of your friendly neighborhood policymakers in Washington, who apparently think economic strategy is just a fancy term for playing Jenga with the global economy. Let's roll. Picture this, 16,000 metric tons of steel pipes, just chilling in a German warehouse, gathering dust like a forgotten New Year's resolution. These bad boys were supposed to be on a container ship, steaming across the Atlantic to fuel a massive energy project in Louisiana. But nope. Thanks to the brain trust in Washington, they're stuck, hostages in a trade war that's less about strategy and more about flexing for the cameras. Why, you ask? Because the Trump administration, in its infinite wisdom, decided to slap million-dollar levies on Chinese-built ships docking in the U.S. And since 80% of the ship owners' vessels on this route are, surprise, surprise, made in China, the cost of shipping those pipes could double or triple. So, let me get this straight, I hear you saying, the government's grand plan to revive American shipbuilding is to kneecap global trade, jack up costs, and leave a bunch of steel pipes stranded in Germany. Boss move, Washington. Boss move. But hold up, this isn't just about a pile of pipes. This is a masterclass in economic self-sabotage, and it's got layers, fam. So, let's peel back the onion, from the surface-level absurdity to the deep, dark structural issues that prove, once again, that government meddling is the gift that keeps on giving us headaches. And don't worry, I've got the freshest data, the spiciest examples, and enough receipts to make your accountant blush. Let's dive in. First off, let's talk about the immediate dumpster fire. The U.S. Trade Representatives, USTR, brilliant idea to curb China's dominance in shipbuilding, logistics, and maritime industries by hitting Chinese-built ships with fees that could run between $1 million and $3.5 million per port call. That's right, folks, every time a Chinese-built ship docks in the U.S., it's getting slapped with a penalty so hefty it could fund a small country's GDP. And who's paying for it? Spoiler alert, not the government. Nope, it's the shippers, the logistics companies, and, yep, you guessed it, you, the consumer. According to Clarkson's research services, these levies could rake in between $40 billion and $52 billion for U.S. coffers. Sounds great, right? Free money. Except, as Jonathan Gold from the National Retail Federation pointed out, carriers are already planning to pass those costs straight to consumers. Oh, and they're also threatening to skip smaller U.S. ports like Oakland, Charleston, Delaware, and Philly, leaving local economies high and dry. Because nothing screams economic revival like gutting regional trade hubs, am I right? But wait, there's more. These levies aren't just a tax on Chinese ships, they're a tax on logic. Clarkson's data shows that 83% of container ship visits to the U.S. in 2024 would have been hit with these fines, along with 2/3 of car carrier calls and nearly 1/3 of crude tankers. So, basically, the USTR is saying, hey, global supply chains, you know how you're already a mess thanks to post-COVID bottlenecks and escalating tariffs? Here, have a sledgehammer to the face. And folks, let's not forget, this is all happening while inflation is already kicking our wallets in the teeth. The U.S. Consumer Price Index, CPI, jumped 3.2% year-over-year in February 2025, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, imagine layering on higher shipping costs, port disruptions, and supply chain chaos. Your grocery bill's gonna look like a mortgage payment, and your Amazon Prime delivery? Kiss that 2-day shipping goodbye. Now, let's zoom out a bit and talk about the supposed why behind this madness. The USTR claims this is all about reviving the U.S. merchant shipbuilding industry, which, let's be real, has been on life support since the 1980s. According to the USTR, China now produces over 50% of the world's cargo ships by tonnage, up from just 5% in 1999. Meanwhile, U.S. shipyards built a pathetic 0.01% of global tonnage in 2024. Oof. That's not a statistic, that's a cry for help. So, the Trump administration's big idea is to punish anyone using Chinese-built ships, while also mandating that a share of U.S. exports, like agricultural goods, chemicals, and energy products, must move on U.S.-flagged, U.S.-crewed, and U.S.-built ships. Sounds patriotic, right? Except, here's the kicker, there aren't enough U.S. ships, workers, or shipyards to make this work. Take Atlantic Container Line, ACL, for example. Back in 2012, they needed specialized, container roll-on roll-off vessels. Guess what? Japanese and Korean shipyards wouldn't build just 5 of them, and U.S. shipyards said, sure, we can help, in 7 years. So, ACL went to China, where they got the ships quickly and at a competitive price. Now, 13 years later, the USTR wants to punish them for a decision they made when US shipyards were too busy cashing Navy checks to bother with commercial orders. As ACL CEO Andrew Abbott put it, the proposed action will put us out of business for a commercial decision taken 13 years ago. Let me break this down for you, fam. The government saying, hey, we know we dropped the ball on shipbuilding for decades, but instead of fixing our own mess, we're gonna fine you for not using ships that don't exist. That's not a strategy, that's a tantrum. And here's the data to back it up. According to the U.S. Maritime Administration, MERIT, the U.S. had just 181 U.S.-flagged, privately owned ocean-going merchant vessels in 2024, down from over 1,000 in the 1950s. Meanwhile, a 2023 report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, found that U.S. shipyards are operating at less than 1% of global capacity, while China's shipbuilding output is 1,000 times greater. Oh, and good luck finding American mariners to crew those imaginary ships. MERIT estimates a shortage of 1,800 mariners, even before you factor in these new mandates. Now, let's get to the juicy stuff, the deep, structural rot that's driving this whole circus. The USTR claims this is all about national security, framing China's maritime dominance as a threat to global supply, pricing, and access. Fair enough, China's state-backed shipbuilding giant, China State Shipbuilding Corporation, does have the world's largest order book, and yeah, their subsidies and labor practices give them an edge that's tough to compete with. But here's the thing, if this were really about security, wouldn't the US be cozying up to allies like South Korea, Japan, and Finland, who are also top-tier shipbuilders? Instead, we're alienating everyone by disrupting global trade and hiking costs for all shippers, not just the Chinese. Philip Luck, economics director at CSIS, nailed it when he said, it's not going to address the basic challenge they said they want to solve, increasing capacity of the U.S. shipbuilding industry. If it's a pure security issue, we should be incentivizing investment by allies. But nah, Washington's too busy waving the "Make Shipbuilding Great Again" flag to think about boring stuff like, actual solutions. And let's talk about the timing. This whole mess kicked off under the Biden administration in 2024, after 5 major labor unions pushed for an investigation into China's maritime dominance. The report dropped just days before Trump's inauguration in January 2025, and now the Trump team is running with it like a kid with a new toy. But here's the kicker, this isn't just about ships, it's about politics. Trump's base loves the idea of bringing back American manufacturing, even if the plan's as realistic as me winning the lottery. And with midterm elections looming in 2026, you better believe this is all about optics, not outcomes. So, let me get this straight, fam. We've got a policy that's gonna jack up inflation, disrupt supply chains, tank regional economies, and do next to nothing for US shipbuilding, all so Trump can flex for the cameras and say, look, I'm tough on China. Meanwhile, the real winners here are Canada and Mexico, who are about to see a flood of diverted trade because US ports are too expensive. Boss move, Washington. Boss move. Now, let's talk about the fallout, because this isn't just a US problem, it's a global one. First off, inflation. We're already dealing with a CPI that's up 3.2% year over year, and freight rates are still 30% higher than pre-COVID levels, according to the Drewry World Container Index as of March 2025. Now, layer on these port fees, and you're looking at a recipe for even higher consumer prices. Businesses will either eat the costs, good luck with that, or pass them on to you, the consumer. And don't forget, higher shipping costs hit low-margin exporters like farmers the hardest, which means your local soybean grower in Iowa is about to get squeezed even tighter. Second, inequality. Smaller ports like Oakland and Charleston are already on life support after years of losing traffic to mega hubs like Los Angeles and New York. If carriers start skipping these ports to avoid fees, you're looking at job losses, business closures, and a widening economic gap between coastal megacities and regional hubs. According to a 2024 report from the American Association of Port Authorities, smaller ports support over 1.2 million jobs and $300 billion in economic activity. But hey, who needs those when you've got a shiny "Make Shipbuilding Great Again" bumper sticker, right? And finally, global trade. This isn't just America's problem. When the US sneezes, the world catches a cold. If these levies stick, shippers will start rerouting to Canada and Mexico, overwhelming their ports and driving up costs everywhere. Oh, and good luck getting new ships built. Shipyards in South Korea and Japan are booked solid through 2028, according to shipbrokers. So, shipowners who want to avoid penalties are stuck, and the market's already splitting into China-built and non-China-built fleets, which is a logistical nightmare. Folks, this is what happens when you let politicians play economist. You get a policy that's less about fixing problems and more about flexing for the cameras. And the worst part? We're all paying for it. Higher prices, lost jobs, and a global trade system that's one step away from a full-on meltdown. Thanks, Washington. You're the real MVPs. So, what's the moral of this story, fam? Simple, government meddling is the fast track to economic misery. If the US really wanted to revive shipbuilding, it'd invest in training programs, tax incentives, and partnerships with allies, not slap million-dollar fees on ships that are already built. If it really cared about national security, it'd focus on strategic sectors, not blanket policies that punish everyone. And if it really cared about consumers, it'd think twice before jacking up inflation and gutting regional economies. But nah, that's too logical. Instead, we've got a policy that's all sizzle, no steak, a political stunt dressed up as economic strategy. And the result? A pile of steel pipes in Germany, a global supply chain on life support, and a US economy that's one bad decision away from a recession. So, there you have it, Boss Economics World fam, the latest chapter in Washington's never-ending quest to turn a functioning economy into a flaming dumpster fire. If you're as fed up as I am, smash that like button, share this video, and let's keep calling out the nonsense. Until next time, stay savvy, stay skeptical, and remember, when the government says it's here to help, run for the hills. Peace out.